You know, we usually think of grammar as, well, just a bunch of boring rules, right? But what if I told you that the smallest words, like by, through, or of, could hold a philosophical code, a code so powerful it could actually threaten the very idea of God? Today, we're going to dive into this incredible ancient text that basically warns us that language isn't just about describing things, it can actually be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a total exaggeration, doesn't it? A single preposition causing a crisis. But for the author of the text we're digging into, this was no joke. This wasn't some hypothetical classroom exercise. He genuinely believed that if you misuse just one of these little words, it wasn't just bad grammar, no. It was a direct path to heresy. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. The author is basically saying that this whole systematic way of looking at syllables and words, it didn't just come out of nowhere. He saw it as a dangerous import, something from heathen philosophy. He was convinced this foreign system for explaining cause and effect was like a poison, something that was corrupting theology from the inside out. So yeah, a war over words was pretty much inevitable. So this was a war, but not one fought with swords and shields. Nope, this was a war fought with syllables. The battleground was language itself, specifically the really delicate words used to describe the divine. We're talking about the relationship between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit during the act of creation. The stakes couldn't be higher. So here's the accusation, plain and simple. The author says his opponents made a huge, fundamental mistake. They took this kind of mechanical, very human-made system for understanding how things get made, and they tried to just jam it onto the nature of God. I mean, it's like trying to measure the soul with a ruler, right? It just doesn't work. And in his view, the results were absolutely catastrophic.
Okay, so what is this so-called dangerous system that they supposedly misused? Well, the author has a name for it, and for our purposes, we're calling it the grammar of casuality. Let's break down what that actually means, because it's pretty fascinating. So what it boils down to is this. It's a framework, a kind of rule book, where specific phrases are used like little labels. And these labels assign a very precise job to every single part of a creative process. It's a way of looking at the world and saying, okay, this is the maker, this is the tool, and this is the material, all by using this really strict grammatical code.
All right, check this out. This table lays out the whole system for us. And just notice how incredibly precise it is. By whom? That's always the main creator, the boss. Through which is the instrument, the tool. Of which is the stuff it's made from. According to which, that's the blueprint, the design. And on account of which is the whole reason you're doing it, the purpose. You see? Every single piece of the puzzle gets its own special grammatical tag. It's like a perfectly ordered machine for making meaning.
Okay, I know this might still seem a little abstract, a little philosophical. So to make sure we're all on the same page, the author gives us this fantastic, super simple analogy that makes the whole system crystal clear. What's the analogy? Just making a simple wooden bench. Seriously. So as we walk through this, I want you to pay attention to how each of those specific phrases we just looked at gets snapped into place like a Lego piece. See how it all fits together? The bench is made of wood. Boom, that's the material. It's built according to a pattern. That's our design. It's crafted through an adze, which is a type of tool. It's made by the carpenter, our main creator. And why does it exist? On account of the use of man. That's its purpose. It's a really neat, tidy, logical system, right? For the physical world, it works perfectly. But what happens when you try to apply the system to God? And this is where it all goes wrong. This is the moment of impact. It's where this very worldly, very human grammar of philosophy just smashes head-on into the language of faith. And that is what creates the crisis our author is so incredibly worried about. The problem starts right here. The author's opponents literally took the logical system for building a bench and applied it directly to the creation of the entire universe. And in doing that, just one of those phrases, one of those tiny little words, ended up creating a massive theological problem. Just look at this comparison. It's stark. The phrase through which in that philosophical system was meant for lifeless things, instruments, tools, a hammer, a saw, an adze. But the author's opponents took that exact same phrase and applied it directly to God the Son. Think about that. They were in effect using the word for a hammer to describe a co-creator of the entire universe. And that right there is the absolute core of the issue. For our author, This wasn't just some intellectual oopsie. It was an act of belittling. By using the language of tools, his opponents were demoting the son. They were turning him into a mere instrument, something subordinate and inferior. The grammar itself was creating a hierarchy that, to him, was nothing short of heresy.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, it's an intense ancient debate about prepositions, of all things. But it all boils down to a timeless and really crucial point about the power we all have every single time we open our mouths to speak. The ultimate point is this: words don't just label things. They're like little suitcases, and they carry entire philosophical systems inside them. They assign value, they create hierarchies, they literally shape our reality. Think about it. To call someone a tool instead of a co-creator isn't just a different word. It's a completely different world. And this quote, this is the author's final devastating blow. The power here is just in its raw simplicity. He is absolutely shocked that his fellow Christians feel no shame, that they would so casually use the language of a workshop, the words you use for a hammer or a saw, to describe the divine architect of the cosmos. It just reveals how incredibly high the stakes really were for him. So all of this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The debate itself was ancient, sure, but the principle behind it is completely timeless. It makes you wonder, what powerful ideas, what hidden assumptions are tucked away inside the simple words we use every single day? It really seems like the grammar of our lives is a whole lot more important than we think.